Stop. Breathe. Stop. See. Stop. Hear. Stop. Feel. Please keep the silence within your own mind. The meditation way is open to the public. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. Breathing in. I know that I am breathing in. Breathing out. I know that I am breathing out. Breathing in. I know that I am breathing in. Breathing out. I know that I am breathing out. Breathing in. I fades away. Breathing out. I fades away. Breathing in. I am aware. Breathing out. I am aware. Breathing in, just aware, no I. Breathing out, just aware, no I. The Buddha is the supreme teacher of emptiness. The Buddha is the supreme teacher of non-duality. Breathing in, there is neither Buddhism nor non-duality. Breathing out, there is no yes or no. Breathing in, step. Breathing out, step. Thinking a thought, seeing it as empty. Not thinking a thought, seeing it as empty. Breathing in, again. Breathing out, again. Breathing in is not boring. Breathing out is not boring. Breathing in, I am beyond my thoughts. Breathing out, I am beyond my thoughts. Every sound, every sight, every sensation in the body, every sensation in the mind, I am aware. What is awareness without I? What is I without awareness? What are words without the lack of words? What is the lack of words without words? Breathing in, I am aware of breathing in. Breathing out, I am aware of breathing out. Not thinking about anything, not trying to do anything, not trying to understand anything. Breathing in, there is nothing to do. Breathing out, there is nowhere to go. Breathing in, I make a commitment, a vow and a promise to face this direct experience as it is, without trying to make it a different way. Breathing out, I am aware that I am beyond thoughts. Breathing in, I am free. Breathing out, I am free. Breathing in freedom. Breathing out freedom. Breathing in, I am aware that there is so much that I don't know and understand. Breathing out, I am aware that there is so much that I don't know and so much that I don't understand. Breathing in, just not knowing. Breathing out, just not knowing. Breathing in, I have no need to think about anything. Breathing out, there is no thought to begin with. Breathing in, I wonder, where was I before I was born? Breathing out, I realize that there is no birth and no death in awareness. Breathing in, step, stop. Breathing out, step, stop. Breathing in, I am losing confidence about my capacity to understand the world through thoughts. Breathing out, I am losing confidence in my capacity to understand myself through thinking. Breathing in, there are no thoughts. Breathing out, there are no thoughts. Breathing in, stop. Breathing out, stop. Breathing in, I am unsubscribing from the stream of complicated thinking. Breathing out, I am unsubscribing from the stream of complicated thinking. Breathing in, stop. Don't think. Breathing out, start thinking about what it is to not think about anything. Breathing in, I realize that thinking has become a compulsion and that I have no control over my thinking. Breathing out, I realize that compulsive thinking has ruined my life. Breathing in, stop. No more thinking. Breathing out, thoughts disappear. Breathing in and breathing out, thoughts are seen to be temporary, empty, illusory. Breathing in, stop. Breathing out, stop. Breathing in, I realize that I have lost the capacity to look deeply at anything besides seeking after what I desire. Breathing out, I realize that I have lost my capacity to look deeply at anything besides trying to avoid what I don't want to experience. Breathing in, I return home in the here and now that's not based in thinking. Stepping, stopping, stepping, stopping. Breathing in, I am aware that I don't need to do anything and I don't need to go anywhere. Breathing out, I am aware that I don't need to do anything and I don't need to go anywhere. Breathing in, I am aware that I have often lost myself in being aggressive towards those that I don't understand. Breathing out, I realize that I have lost myself in constant compulsive consumption. Breathing in, step, stop. No thinking. Breathing out, stop. Aware. Breathing in, I realize that awareness itself is liberation. Breathing out, I realize that awareness itself is liberation. Breathing in, I am naturally aware, but I oftentimes don't realize awareness. Breathing out, I realize that I am always aware, but not recognizing it. Breathing in, stop. Breathing out, stop. Breathing in, I realize that I don't even need to breathe. Breathing out, I realize that I don't even need to breathe. Stop. Breathing in, I realize that thinking has become a compulsion. Breathing out, I realize that I don't need to think about everything. Breathing out, I realize that I have traded my peace for thinking. Breathing out, I realize that I actually don't care about politics or being right or wrong. I just want to be at peace within myself. Breathing in, I am a martyr for mindfulness and detachment. Breathing out, I am a martyr for mindfulness and detachment. Breathing in, I am a martyr for mindfulness and detachment. Breathing in, I realize that I'm actually interested in not thinking. Breathing out, I realize that it is more important for me to look deeply than it is for me to constantly seek after what I desire and try to avoid what I don't want to experience. Breathing in, stop. Breathing out, stop. Breathing in, I realize that talking about nonsense doesn't help. Breathing out, I realize that I often talk about things I don't really care about. Breathing in, I realize that I have become lost in the sauce of complicated thinking, all of the nonsense of the world that I have been programmed to be involved with. Breathing in, I realize, stop. Breathing out, I realize, stop. Breathing in, I realize that I have been programmed and conditioned to be a buyer and a seller. Breathing out, I realize that I have been conditioned to trade my body and mind for money. Breathing in, I realize that I have lost any capacity to be free in this moment. Breathing out, I realize that I have been compulsively seeking after something that will make me feel better. Breathing out, I realize that I am not lost, nor am I found, nor do I really know what I means. Breathing in, I realize that I is an idea. Breathing out, I realize that self is an idea. Breathing in, I realize that it doesn't actually matter if I was a Buddhist monk for 7 years. Breathing out, I realize that it doesn't actually matter the story that I tell about myself. Breathing in, I realize, stop. Breathing out, I realize, stop. Breathing in, I realize that I am more interested in being good and feeling good than consuming media and food. Breathing out, I realize that I have been programmed by my culture and my society to constantly consume and avoid pain and seek pleasure. Breathing in, I realize that I am at peace in the here and now. Breathing in, I realize that I am very quick to judge. Being realized, I am free from realization. Breathing in, I realize that I am addicted to entertainment. Breathing out, I realize that I am addicted to entertainment. Breathing in, I realize that I am addicted to non-practical, complicated thinking. Breathing out, I realize, stop. Breathing in, I realize, stop. Breathing out, I realize, stop. Step. Breathing in, I realize that a lot of the times I focus on things that don't have much meaning to me. Breathing in, I realize that my life is dominated by selfishness. Breathing out, I realize that it would be meaningful for me to help others. Breathing in, I realize that I don't need to think so much. Breathing out, I realize that my thoughts can be a false way of viewing the world. Breathing in, I realize that I don't need to constantly think all the time. Breathing in, I realize that I am often pretending to know about things that I don't know about. Breathing out, I realize that I am oftentimes pretending to know about what's happening when I actually don't. Breathing in, I realize how easily it is to have an idea about what's going on that actually doesn't match up with reality. Breathing out, I realize how oftentimes I cling to thoughts to describe this reality because I don't know how to stop thinking and look deeply. Breathing in, I realize that I have totally lost my sense of curiosity. Breathing out, I realize that I have become addicted to putting everything into a box of conceptual thinking. Breathing in, I realize that I have become compulsively addicted to being a student of advertising firms telling me to like and dislike things. Breathing in, I realize that I have become lost in a culture of consumption and complacency. Breathing in, I realize that I am addicted to pleasuring myself. Breathing out, I realize that I am an addict of avoiding pain. Breathing in, I realize that I do not have many deep and meaningful experiences in my life. Breathing out, I realize that I oftentimes spend way too much compulsively watching videos that have nothing to do with me or what I'm really interested in. We can also do it like this. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, breathing out. Breathing in, I realize that I have become addicted to being right. Breathing in, I realize that I have become addicted to other people being wrong. Breathing out, I realize that I have become addicted to a shallow, simplistic, conceptual way of viewing the world that does not allow me to engage with the world deeply or meaningfully according to my heart interests. Breathing in, I realize that I have become completely complacent in terms of understanding my mind and realizing freedom. Breathing out, I realize that my entire life has become a cog in the system of consumption. Breathing in, I realize that I have been lost in complicated thinking for a long time. Breathing out, I realize that I don't need to think anymore. Breathing in, I realize that I have become a negative person. Breathing out, I realize that I have lost faith in positivity. Breathing out, I realize that I have become addicted to negative situations and experiences that are not happening to me, that I can view from the outside to feel more comfortable about the way that I'm living my life. Breathing out, I realize that I am not doing very much to help others or involved in community in a way that I would like to be. Breathing in, I realize that actually I don't know much about looking at my own mind and reality. Breathing out, I realize that I am oftentimes not peaceful. Breathing in, I realize that I have traded my peace and curiosity for the capacity to make myself feel pleasure and avoid pain by scrolling on TikTok and YouTube and eating cheeseburgers. So we can get some big W's in the chat, everybody, and you can also feel welcome to ask a question in front of this big wall of Buddhas. Breathing in, I realize that I don't actually care about religion, philosophy, politics, or helping others. Breathing out, I realize that I mainly care about making myself feel pleasure and avoiding pain. Breathing in, I realize that I am addicted to being right about things that I don't actually have anything to do with. Breathing out, I realize that I have become addicted to politics because it gives me a sense of being righteous and involved in the world when in fact I have nothing to do with politics. I have nothing to do with the leadership of any nations. And I have nothing to do with that which is outside of my own direct experience, such as my interactions that I have with myself and with the people who are around me. Breathing in, I realize that I have become totally disassociated from reality, and instead I have replaced my association with reality for my association with complicated belief systems and the soap opera of politics and social media that bring no value to my life nor to the people that I care about. Breathing in, I realize that I have lost a connection to my deeper self and to the people around me by focusing too much on social media. Breathing out, I realize that I have spent my excess energy when not working, consuming media and consuming alcohol and disassociating from my capacity to help others. Breathing in, I realize that my life has become confusing. Breathing out, I realize that I don't even know the first thing about looking deeply into myself. Breathing in, I realize that I have replaced my capacity to look deeply at anything with the consumption of politics and social media and nonsensical consumption and entertainment. Breathing in, I realize that my life has become a poorly worded and badly written movie. Breathing out, I realize that I would like to find a way to lead a more meaningful life and to connect with others in a more practical way. Breathing in, I realize that I have become addicted to compulsively swiping, not just on TikTok and YouTube, but in my own direct experience. I am constantly swiping to the next experience, to the next experience, to the next thought, and I have entirely lost my capacity to stop and look deeply at anything. I have entirely lost my capacity to stop and listen. I have lost my access to curiosity. I have lost my compassion. I have lost my access to human looking and human connection. I have traded my humanity for consumption, complacency, for pleasure seeking, and pain avoidance. Breathing in, I realize that the first way to start dealing with suffering is to look at the suffering itself instead of constantly swiping through it and avoiding it. Breathing in, I go back to the island within myself. Breathing in, stop thinking. Breathing out, stop thinking. Yeah, I know it will be a lot for a lot of people, but this is really the only way to do it so that a lot of people can be reached, and so we can cast a wide net for those people who would kind of like to learn about non-duality or mindfulness and detachment or like real spiritual practice. So I know for some people they're going to miss out because it's a little bit much, but it's kind of non-dual Buddhist absurdism. And I was a Buddhist monk for 7 years, Ian, so in terms of the Eightfold Path, I know a lot about it because, I was a Buddhist monk for 7 years. So this is just like my way and practice to share and get people involved and invite them. But if you say something like this, everybody just has this idea that everyone wants to sell something to them and wants to get them into some belief system, and everybody's trying to manipulate them. And anyways, that's kind of what people want, right? People want to be manipulated. People want to be tricked. People want to be sold something. People want to be upsold on a car. This YouTube channel is not monetized. And even if it was, this kind of content, it doesn't allow people to just scroll and watch because it's not entertainment based. This is more about stopping. So I did a stream with Kai Sinat. I've been on stream with iShow Speed. I've been to a lot of places. I did an interview with Matan Evan. But the problem is that this is all about stopping. Stopping consumption, stopping scrolling, stopping seeking. Breathing in, I realize that I have become addicted to a conceptual overlay of reality that doesn't matter if I know what's going on or not. I breathe in, I realize I have become addicted to being right. I breathe out, I realize I have become addicted to there being something wrong in my direct experience. Breathing in, I realize that I have become addicted to making judgments about others. Breathing out, I realize that I have become addicted to making judgments about others. Breathing in, I realize that I have lost my connection to my deeper self, and I have traded it for a shallow version of myself that is totally fixated on being in control and constantly understanding everything without realizing that actually I understand basically nothing. I was a Buddhist monk for 7 years, Jeremy Wong. Breathing in, I realize that I am so addicted to being right that I will grasp onto any thought and any idea that makes me be in the position of the judge and the judger and the understander and the controller. Breathing out, I realize that I am addicted to judging others. Breathing in, I realize that I am addicted to finding faults in others. Breathing in, I realize that I am addicted to an ego-based perspective of what's going on, and I totally do not allow anything that encourages me to relax my ego and relax my fixation on making judgments. Breathing out, stop. Breathing in, I realize that I am so addicted to judging other people that I have totally lost my connection to stopping and looking deeply and actually hearing what someone has to say. Breathing out, I realize that I have become so addicted to a simplistic, conceptual, political view of life and reality that I have become entirely disconnected from reality itself, and because of that, I have no capacity to be in a state of wonder, a state of curiosity, a state of openness, but instead I'm constantly closing myself down and keeping myself from doing anything or experiencing anything that would make me bigger or beyond my ego. Breathing in, I realize that I have become addicted to consuming media to the point where if something is not entertaining and easily understood, I want nothing to do it and will quickly find some way to judge it as being inferior or negative. Hi there, Joseph. Breathing in, I realize I'm addicted to judging others. Breathing out, I realize that I don't have to be the judge anymore. Breathing in, I take back my right to be curious without judgment. Breathing out, I take back my right to see and listen without thinking. Breathing in, I realize I have made myself a victim of myself. Breathing out, stop. Breathing in, I realize I am addicted to being negative towards others. Breathing out, I realize I am addicted to judging others. Breathing in, I realize I am addicted to judging others. Breathing out, I realize that I am addicted to judging others. So the first step to deal with addiction is to face it. Just like the first step to deal with our deeper suffering or our deeper sense of unsatisfactoriness is to actually look at it. Breathing in, I realize that there are cultures and people and experiences that I don't understand. Breathing out, I realize that there is more to life than watching short videos where I completely understand what's going on. Breathing in, I realize that I have become compulsively addicted to pretending to understand everything that I encounter. Breathing out, I realize that I have put myself into a box of conceptual understanding that does not allow me to connect with anyone that does not fit into my box of conceptual understanding. Breathing in, I realize that when someone exists possibly outside of my box of conceptual understanding or outside of my experience, I immediately and compulsively find a way to judge them and discriminate against them as being crazy or inherently lower than me so that I can disenchant my curiosity and openness about life. Breathe, stop, Ving, stop, breathe, stop, Ving, stop. Breathing in, I go back to the island within myself that is not about compulsive thinking, judging myself, or judging others. Breathing in, I realize that judging others is overrated. Breathing out, I realize that judging myself is overrated. Breathing in, I realize that I have become addicted to pretending that I'm God. Breathing out, I realize that I am in fact not God. Breathing in, I realize that I have become addicted to pointing out the faults of others, and if there are not faults there that I can perceive, I will try to find those faults, and if I cannot find those faults, I'll just make up some fault myself, and I will believe in the thought of that fault of the other that I've just made up. Breathing in, I realize that I often pretend to know about things that I don't know about. Breathing out, I realize that I pretend to know about things that I don't know about because I am addicted to being right about what I experience. Breathing in, I realize I have become an authoritarian figure in reality that has to understand and make judgments about what I experience and has to always know about what I experience. Otherwise, breathing in, I realize that I am oftentimes pretending to know about things that I don't know about. Breathing out, I realize that I am compulsively pointing to the faults of others. Breathing in, I realize that I am so addicted to being aggressive or reacting that I will find a way to react that doesn't have anything to do with what I'm experiencing, and I will be completely open to not having any understanding about what's actually going on. Breathing in, I realize that I am so addicted to pointing out the faults of others that I have entirely lost the conception of context in anything that I experience. Breathing in, I realize that I have basically completely lost my connection to humanity because of constant scrolling, liking, disliking, judging, and having simple political, social, conceptual ideas spoon-fed to me constantly that I have become addicted to. Breathing in, I take responsibility for my own mind, my own actions, my own breath, my own eyes, my own ears, my own heart, my own body, my own mind in the here and now. Breathing in, I come back to the peacefulness within myself. Breathing out, I will stop pretending to know about things that I don't know about. Breathing in, I come back to awareness itself. Breathing out, I realize I'm pretending and making up thoughts. And then I'm believing in those thoughts arbitrarily. Breathing in, I realize I've become completely addicted to swiping. Breathing out, I realize that if I don't know about something, I just make up a thought about it and believe in it arbitrarily. And for those who are looking for, some kind of faith or some kind of inspiration or information, I know some people are in a rush. And a big part of these teachings is actually to not be in a hurry and to not be in a rush. So there's like this idea that if you are not able to stop and slow down, you're not going to be able to look closely at anything. And when I say that, I mean your biases are going to be looking for you. And so we have a lot of people who come into these live streams, Dingo 788, that know nothing about Buddhism, they know nothing about meditation, they know nothing about spirituality, they certainly know nothing about being a monk, and they also have no interest in these things, but they are so compulsively addicted to being right or having something to say about what they experience and sharing their opinion that they just make up arbitrary ideas, thoughts, and arguments, and then agree arbitrarily and believe in their own arbitrary thoughts and just go on and on and on and on. So you kind of have to calm down and relax. Because when we don't look deeply, or when we don't know how to look deeply, It means that we are just caught up in our own biases, our own complicated thoughts and beliefs. So for those who don't know about me, you can call me Dr. Rob. I was a Buddhist monk for 7 years. This is like video 1007 or 1008 on this YouTube channel. So for more than 10 years, actually, I've been practicing meditation seriously, attending intensive meditation retreats, studying specifically like Chan and Zen and Non-Duality. And so this is my YouTube channel where I kind of teach and practice non-dual Buddhist absurdism. And it's kind of a very interesting thing. It's in process. This is both my practice, my art, and my platform for sharing and building community and all that stuff. So this is meant to be kind of a surprise. This is meant to be a little bit unusual. In terms of my resume, like I said, I was a Buddhist monk for 7 years. I've been traveling around the world since 2018, practicing, teaching, and studying under meditation masters, mostly in the Buddhist tradition, like Zen or Chan Buddhism. And this is very real. This is very serious. I live stream on average about 8 hours a day. The other day I live streamed for more than 20 hours, and this is all about mindfulness and detachment, Buddhism and meditation. And a part of this practice is also to keep the space open and cast a wide net. So this isn't just for like people who consider themselves to know about Buddhism and meditation and like spiritual people, but this is also a space for anyone and everyone who happens to feel some connection and interest in Buddhism and meditation and these teachings and non-duality, to kind of open up a space, an energetic space, to practice together, to explore, to question, to stop, and to look deeply. And there's also a big emphasis on levity here, so not being super serious, but in that levity, a kind of sincerity and authenticity that is often missed out on in the world. So there's a lot of energy coming through the live chat right now. I'd love to see anybody who's kind of interested and has some questions and open to meditating and things like that. Let's get some big W's in the chat. Let's get some big W's in the chat so we can see if everybody here is just a troll and making judgments and here to say how stupid I am, or if we actually have some people who are connecting with this openness and this wholeheartedness, etc. Which is okay if nobody does, because this is a way for me to do my practice as well. Keep those W's coming, all right, everybody? Let's do a little bit of sadhana. Also, in terms of Zen or Chan or like non-dual enlightenment and that whole kind of idea, there's a certain perspective or a certain school of awakening through confusion, enlightenment through confusion. So this is very much so about not understanding. If you are able to be here and be curious and be, aware and be with your breathing and your body, whatever, and to be curious and to be open to not understanding, you're in the right place. We have a lot of people that will come in the chat and kind of pretend to know what's going on and kind of pretend to be an authority and try to influence other people. And these are people who are kind of locked into an attachment on appearances. So because this appearance is outside of their purview, outside of their understanding, they're going to try to convince other people of the understanding that they have. So this can be a breakthrough moment. This can be an opening moment. And, hint, hint, don't listen to random comments and random people who say random things to try to convince you of what they believe online. Be open to not understanding. Be open to just being. And I'm so happy that everyone's here. And let's get some big W's in the chat, not just for the supporters, not just for the people who are here and kind of interested and having an interesting experience, but also for those people that are coming here and saying they've got a big bad opinion.
let's get some W's for them too. A great opportunity to practice mindfulness and detachment. Everyone is in some way donating and offering and giving and sharing and supporting in their own way. We say, wow, that's a little bit intense, that's a little bit out there for me. Well, think about Gaza. Okay, let's go out into the enlightenment box, everybody. I think we've got through our initial blast of opening up the net and the wheel of the Dhamma. It's going to maybe take a little bit of time for some of the haters and weird opinion holders to calm down. So we're just going to turn on subscribers only. And please feel free to ask your question. And also don't be shy to share your understanding about what's going on here, and let me know how long you've been following and participating and all that kind of stuff. We're going to go into the secret enlightenment box, and it's raining, so that's going to be really nice too. Namo Buddhaya. Okay, don't worry, we'll get the light on. Don't worry, everybody. Sure. This is my joy. This is my sadhana and my practice. So it's my pleasure to be here with everybody and sharing and all that. This is like a meditation box. Just put on my teaching outfit. And that kind of intensity and that unknownness of, having this kind of experience, you're going to have to go through that one way or another. If you're really getting deeply into spirituality. And a lot of people do not get, especially Westerners, a lot of people do not get deeply into spirituality, and there's not anything inherently wrong with that. It's just that a lot of Western people don't have access to meditation masters. They don't have access to meditation retreats, etc. So that's in the mail, Black Mirror, and we're all very excited about that, but they're not in a hurry to send that and mail that, so we'll have to wait a little bit. Maybe we'll fully turn the comments off because probably nobody needs to really say anything. Oh, thank you so much, Samantha, for your donation on PayPal. Samantha says, and thank you to Miss Shelley and Miss Melissa as well. Samantha said, as always, thank you for showing us the way. Well, that's very generous of you to say that. I try to live up to that as deeply and as fully as I possibly can. So what I wanted to go through together in the midst of this storm is actually to look at some of the teachings from Bodhidharma. And Bodhidharma is like the founder of Chan Buddhism, the founder of Zen in China. He's definitely one of my favorite teachers, and I feel very blessed to have a community and a Sangha and an assembly, a Mahayana Dhamma assembly, in which to share this together. So the Buddha said, well, look at this, right? If you can just concentrate your mind and transcend its falsehood and evil, the suffering of the three realms and six states of existence will automatically disappear. And once free from suffering, you're truly free. What caught my eye here, transcend its falsehood. So in the past 20 minutes or 30 minutes of this live stream, how many people did we have come in, not just saying nonsense or saying things that weren't true, but trying to convince other people of things that weren't true? I'm not talking about some, I've got to defend myself or I've got to stand up for myself, what these people are saying isn't true, but just people who have no idea what's going on at all. They have no idea the context of this live stream or this environment and are just spewing hate or negativity, right? Or making claims about, I'm not really a Buddhist monk, or I was never really a Buddhist monk. So just blatant falsehood, right? And then also evil. So like trying to convince others of falsehood. So falsehood itself is just non-practical, complicated thinking, or like an expression of our aggression that we say is something real. And then trying to convince others of that as well. So if you can just concentrate your mind, and remember, to concentrate your mind, you might have to stop and step back and stop scrolling and stop liking and stop disliking and stop commenting and stop judging. How else are you going to be able to concentrate your mind and look deeply? It's totally impossible. If you can't stop scrolling, you can't stop commenting, you can't stop liking and disliking, you can't stop just making up judgments and making up thoughts arbitrarily and then believing in them arbitrarily, how are you ever going to be able to concentrate, to look closely, to look deeply? So if you can just concentrate your mind, and we'll go back even one word, you should realize that all karma, painful or otherwise, comes from your own mind. So that all aspects of your direct experience, through the eyes, through the ears, through the nose, through the tongue, through the body, through the mind, all aspects of your direct experience are just your own mind. What you see out there is your mind. What could mind be if not everything? Where are you experiencing all of this if not inside of your own mind? And so we can understand that, and then to take it further is a kind of realization that all is mind. Everything is your mind. Just like in a dream, right? And how could we have dreams? How could we have experiences like that if that wasn't already true? If we didn't already experience reality in life like that, where we drove around and we were independent and that was outside and this was inside, if that's the way that it really was, how could we constantly have dreams over and over and over again where we are complete, a person in an environment having these things happen in all these different ways, and all of that is mind? It's because, yes, everything is mind. So dreams are like good teachers in terms of their principles, or in terms of the realities that they express, not in terms of the particularities of the story or the interpretation of the story. That's just falsehood. So from this, you should realize that all karma, all experiences stemming from volitional action, so your karma, your experience, painful or otherwise, comes from your own mind. If you can just concentrate your mind and transcend its falsehood and evil, meaning like its bullshit and the tendency towards negativity, then the suffering of all realms of existence and all states of existence will automatically disappear. And once free from suffering, you're truly free. Let the self, let the ego, let the identity unravel. That's natural meditation, true meditation. But if you can't do that, that's kind of like tantra. So it's like you're overstepping your own habit energy. You're overstepping your own karma with a good intention, with something that's concerned with wisdom and mindfulness and detachment. So it's a good way to do it. Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa, 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 Namo Guanxi Yin Pusa. Instead of just being like beholden to your karma, you behold the mind. Behold awareness. What did Bodhidharma say? The Zen master, the original founder of Chan Buddhism, he said, if you can realize awareness, that itself is liberation. If you can realize awareness, that itself is liberation. But the Buddha said, only after undergoing innumerable hardships for 3 Asyankya kalpas did I achieve enlightenment. So Asyankya kalpas is a long time. Why do you now say that simply beholding the mind and overcoming the 3 poisons is liberation? So those 3 poisons is greed, means we want more and more and more. Anger means we're frustrated, we don't like that we're experiencing this. And also delusion, which means that we are believing in a lot of non-practical, complicated thoughts, right? What I was talking about earlier, where we just think something up and then we arbitrarily believe and attach to that thought. So Bodhidharma is saying that simply beholding the mind or recognizing awareness is liberation, right? So Bodhidharma is saying realizing awareness is enlightenment. Realizing awareness is liberation. That's what Bodhidharma, the founder of Zen Buddhism, is saying. But the Buddha said, only after undergoing innumerable hardships for 3 Asyankya kalpas did I achieve enlightenment. Why do you now say that simply beholding the mind and overcoming the 3 poisons is liberation? So this is like Buddhism versus Chan, or Buddhism versus Zen. Bodhidharma says, the words of the Buddha are true, but the 3 Asyankya kalpas refers to the 3 poisoned states of mind. What we call Asyankya in Sanskrit, you call countless. Within these 3 poisoned states of mind are countless evil thoughts, and every thought lasts a kalpa. So every thought is an infinity, or every thought is innumerable lifetimes, or every thought that you have is a self. That your self is not any more real or less real than a thought. That the arbitrariness of the self, of the ego, of the real true person in the real true story is finitely linked to a thought. That yourself, your real identity, is as real as a bubble. And it pops. So beholding the mind or recognizing awareness is to behold the popping of the bubble of self. Liberation. Liberation from self. So within these 3 poisoned states of mind, of greed, anger, and delusion, are countless evil thoughts. And every thought lasts a kalpa, a very long period of time. Like a kalpa is the beginning of one universe to the end of that universe. Such an infinity is what the Buddha meant by 3 Asyankya kalpas. So the infinity of these poisoned states of mind, of greediness, of angry, of non-practical, complicated thoughts that we so often get lost to. Raise your hand. Who here has gotten lost in anger? Who here has gotten lost in greediness? Who here has gotten lost in delusion? Like just being lost in a bunch of non-practical, complicated thoughts. Or getting lost in an idea about someone or a situation or an experience that turned out to be totally not true. So a delusion, right? Once your real self or your true self, which is like awareness or enlightenment or liberation or freedom from anything, your true self is like thinglessness. Your true self is like open space that isn't defined by anything in it, right? So it's like you can't fill up space. Space is limitless. In that way, space is nothing. So once your real self becomes obscured by the three poisons, greed, anger, and delusion, how can you be called liberated until you overcome their countless evil thoughts? People who can transform the three poisons of anger, greed, and delusion into the three releases are said to pass through the three Ashyanka kalpas. So do you get that? That every boundary, every blockage, every negative thought, every positive thought, every experience is containing within itself a release, like a nuclear bomb, like fission. So those, Bodhidharma is saying here, people who can transform the three poisons of greed, anger, and delusion into the three releases are said to pass through the three Ashyanka kalpas. But people of this final age are the densest of fools, right? So we have this kind of belief or saying in Buddhism that, you know, the Buddha age was like the first 500 years. So like the juice and the essence of the Buddha was really alive. Like people were getting enlightened each and every day of the week because it was so alive. And then there's a second period of decline, so 1,000 years, where the path, the Dhamma, the access to awakening begins to decline. And we've talked about this in previous live streams as well. And the third and final period witnesses the eventual disappearance of the Buddha's message, right? So we lose the enlightenment teaching totally. Now, do we need Buddha? Do we need non-duality? Do we need Zen? Can't we just, you know, Buddha's fake, not everything's fake, everything's fake. Well, you know, is your toilet fake when you have to shit? When you have fiery hot diarrhea, is your toilet fake? So I usually say that's the wisdom of shitting your pants and going to Walmart. Hey, I'm not going to stop you, but that's not what I'd recommend. So when we start to actually look more deeply into Buddha, into non-duality, when we actually learn how to stop and look deeply, we learn that there's a place to shit and there's a place to not shit. And that ultimately, sure, you know, to shit or to not shit, is that really the question? If you're completely insane or you're dead, yes, it is the question. But if you're just a human being, you shit in your pants, you're going to stink. You shit in the toilet, no problem. And surprisingly, and I got to say, look, this is not for the intellectuals. This is not for the superior spiritualists. This is for the losers of the world, okay? So if you're here, you want to be convinced, you want to get an introductory package to meditation and Buddhism so that you can feel comfortable paying for a course or a class or making a donation or whatever, you're in the wrong place, sweetheart. You're in the wrong place, Daddy-o. You're not going to get that here. So there's this dynamic where we take our thoughts and we take our stories and we take our beliefs so seriously, right? In our life, in our car payment, in our house. But just think about something like shitting. If you shit in the toilet, A-okay, no problem. What if you shit in your bed? How easy is it to shit in your bed? And how big of a problem is that going to be? So this is not about something that's difficult or special or, you know, this is only for the high-minded people who want to meditate in the Himalayas or, you know, the wealthy people or the educated people. This is for those who have shit themselves. This is for those who know what it's like to shit themselves and to be able to say, I'd rather use the toilet. So where is the toilet? Life is the toilet for your thoughts. Life is the toilet for your greed, anger, and delusion. So are you going to empty out your greed, anger, and delusion? Are you going to release your greed, anger, and delusion? Or are you going to shit in the bed? Are you going to perpetuate your selfishness, your ego, your bullshit thoughts that you come up with because you're frustrated or because you want to say something? Or are you going to use the toilet of the Dharma? Are you going to take the shit of the Buddha? Up to you. People say, oh my gosh, you know, this, you've gone too far. You've gone too far. I won't accept it. Well, there's a great Zen master that was once asked, who is the Buddha? And the Zen master replied, a dried shit stick. So, take a bite. Not out of that Kit Kat bar, but out of the dried shit stick of the Buddha. Ah, suffering is Nibbana. Let's take a brief intermission break for our sadhana, and then we'll continue with the teachings of Bodhidharma. So, think about fentanyl. Or think about dabs. Think about THC concentrates. Think about dabs and think about fentanyl. A dab will do you. The Dharma is the fentanyl of all fentanyl. Just a microgram, just the smallest amount of Dhamma will do you. And it's something that we can overdose on, and that's fine because it's the Dhamma. It's good in the middle, it's good at the beginning, it's good at the end. But many are not ready to receive or to listen or to be with the Dhamma. Does that mean the Dhamma can't be available in public spaces? I did feel a shift recently. Anyone else feeling some shifts recently?
Oh, there's not really a purpose. That's why I like it. Let's get some big W's in the chat for purposelessness. The thing is, you can't fake it. You can't fake this stuff. You're not going to be able to think your way through it. You know, people are saying, hey, can you give a Q&A? You're in the wrong place. I'm here giving F and A's in the chat. F the W's. Let's get some A's in the chat. A+. If he's gonna come, let him come. What did it say? What did Max say? Here, listen.
Lucifer, son of the morning, I'm gonna chase you out of earth. put on an iron shirt and chase Satan out of earth. I'm gonna put on an iron shirt and chase the devil out of earth. I'm gonna send him to outer space, find another race. I'm gonna send him to outer space.
This is a monk's life. Former Buddhist monk. Continue. Let's continue with Bodhidharma.
Once your real self becomes obscured, once your real self becomes obscured by the three poisons, how can you be called liberated until you overcome their countless evil thoughts? People who can transform the three poisons of greed, anger, and delusion into the three releases are said to pass through the Ashyanka Kalpas. But people of this final age are the densest of fools. They don't understand what the Tathagata really meant by the three Ashyanka Kalpas. They say enlightenment is only achieved after endless kalpas, generations of time, and thereby mislead disciples to retreat on the path to Buddhahood. But the great bodhisattvas have achieved enlightenment only by observing the three sets of precepts, which is the precepts for the rules and regulations for ordinary Buddhists and more devoted people, and then for monks and nuns, the precepts. But the great bodhisattvas have achieved enlightenment only by observing the three sets of precepts and practicing the 6 paramitas: compassion, kindness, forgiveness, generosity. Now you tell disciples merely to behold the mind. How can anyone reach enlightenment without cultivating the rules of discipline? The 3 sets of precepts are for overcoming the 3 poison states of mind. When you overcome these poisons, you create 3 sets of limitless virtue. A set gathers things together, in this case, countless good thoughts throughout your mind. And the 6 paramitas are for purifying the 6 senses. What we call paramitas, you call means to the other shore.
So the parameas: charity, morality, patience, devotion, meditation, and wisdom. I'm not good with the lists. So what we call parameas, you call means to the other shore. By purifying your 6 senses of the dust of sensation, the parameas ferry you across the river of affliction to the shore of enlightenment. According to the sutras, the 3 sets of precepts are: I vow to put an end to all evils. I vow to cultivate all virtues, and I vow to liberate all beings. But now you say they are only for controlling the 3 poisoned states of mind. Isn't this contrary to the meaning of the scriptures? Bodhidharma says, the sutras of the Buddha are true, but long ago, when that great bodhisattva was cultivating the seed of enlightenment, it was to counter the 3 poisons that he made his 3 vows. I vow to put an end to all evils, I vow to cultivate all virtues, and I vow to liberate all beings. Practicing moral prohibitions to counter the poison of greed, he vowed to put an end to all evils. Practicing meditation to counter the poison of anger, he vowed to cultivate all virtues. And practicing wisdom to counter the poison of delusion, he vowed to liberate all beings. Because he persevered in these 3 pure practices of morality, meditation, and wisdom, he was able to overcome the 3 poisons and reach enlightenment. By overcoming the 3 poisons, he wiped out everything sinful and thus put an end to evil. By observing the 3 sets of precepts, he did nothing but good and thus cultivated virtue. And by putting an end to evil and cultivating virtue, he consummated all practices, benefiting himself as well as others, and rescued mortals everywhere. Thus, he liberated beings. You should realize that the practice you cultivate doesn't exist apart from your mind. If your mind is pure, all Buddha lands are pure. The sutras say, if their minds are impure, beings are impure. If their minds are pure, beings are pure. And to reach a Buddha land, purify your mind. As your mind becomes pure, Buddha lands become pure. Thus, by overcoming the three poisoned states of mind, of greed, anger, and delusion, the three sets of precepts are automatically fulfilled. But the sutras say the six paramitas are charity, morality, patience, devotion, meditation, and wisdom. Now you say the paramitas refer to the purification of the senses. What do you mean by this? And why are they called ferries? So it's said that charity, morality, patience, devotion, meditation, and wisdom, they ferry us to the other shore. They ferry us from the place where we are, the place of ordinary people suffering, to the other shore of enlightenment, of Nibbana. So what do you mean by this? Bodhidharma says, cultivating the paramitas means purifying the six senses by overcoming the six thieves. Casting out the thief of the eye by abandoning the visual world is charity. Keeping out the thief of the ear by not listening to sounds is morality. Humbling the thief of the nose by equating all smells as neutral is patience. Controlling the thief of the mouth by conquering desires to taste, praise, and explain is devotion. Quelling the thief of the body by remaining unmoved by sensations of touch is meditation. And taming the thief of the mind by not yielding to delusions but practicing wakefulness is wisdom. These six paramitas are transports, like boats or rafts. They transport beings to the other shore, hence they are called ferries. But when Shakyamuni was a bodhisattva, he consumed 3 bowls of milk and 6 ladles of gruel prior to attaining enlightenment. If he had to drink milk before he could taste the fruit of Buddhahood, how can merely beholding the mind result in liberation? What you say is true. That is how he attained enlightenment. He had to drink milk before he could become a Buddha. But there are 2 kinds of milk. That which Shakyamuni drank wasn't ordinary impure milk, but pure Dharma milk. The 3 bowls were the 3 sets of precepts, and the 6 ladles were the 6 paramitas. When Shakyamuni attained enlightenment, it was because he drank this pure Dharma milk that he tasted the fruit of Buddhahood. To say that the Tathagata drank the worldly concoction of impure, rank-smelling cow's milk is the height of slander. That which is truly so, the indestructible, passionless Dharma self, remains forever free of the world's afflictions. Why would it need impure milk to satisfy its hunger or thirst? The sutras say, this ox doesn't live in the highlands or the lowlands. It doesn't eat grain or chaff, and it doesn't graze with cows. The body of this ox is the color of burnished gold. The ox refers to Vairochana. Vairochana is the great Sun Buddha who embodies the Dharma self, or true body of the Buddha. Owing to his great compassion for all beings, he produces from within his pure Dharma body the sublime Dharma milk of the 3 sets of precepts and 6 paramitas to nourish all those who seek liberation. The pure milk of such a truly pure ox not only enabled the Tathagata to achieve Buddhahood, but also enables any being who drinks it to attain unexcelled, complete enlightenment. Throughout the sutras, the Buddha tells mortals they can achieve enlightenment by performing such meritorious works as building monasteries, casting statues, burning incense, scattering flowers, lighting eternal lamps, practicing all 6 periods of the day and night, walking around stupas, observing fasts, and worshipping. But if beholding the mind includes all other practices, then such works as these would appear redundant. The sutras of the Buddha contain countless metaphors. Because mortals have shallow minds and don't understand anything deep, the Buddha used the tangible to represent the sublime. People who seek blessings by concentrating on external works instead of internal cultivation are attempting the impossible. What you call a monastery, we call a sangharama, a place of purity. But whoever denies entry to the 3 poisons and keeps the gates of his senses pure, his body and mind still, inside and outside clean, builds a monastery. Casting statues refers to all practices cultivated by those who seek enlightenment. The Tathagata's sublime form can't be represented by metal. Those who seek enlightenment regard their bodies as the furnace, the Dharma as the fire, wisdom as the craftsmanship, and the 3 sets of precepts and 6 parameas as the mold. They smelt and refine the true Buddha nature within themselves and pour it into the mold formed by the rules of discipline. Acting in perfect accordance with the Buddha's teaching, they naturally create a perfect likeness. The eternal sublime body isn't subject to conditions or decay. If you seek the truth but don't learn how to make a true likeness, what will you use in its place? And burning incense doesn't mean ordinary material incense, but the incense of the intangible Dharma, which drives away filth, ignorance, and evil deeds with its perfume. There are 5 kinds of such Dharma incense. First is the incense of morality, which means renouncing evil and cultivating virtue. Second is the incense of meditation, which means deeply believing in the Mahayana with unwavering resolve. The Mahayana is like not just our own enlightenment, but the enlightenment of others. Third is the incense of wisdom, which means contemplating the body and mind inside and out. Fourth is the incense of liberation, which means severing the bonds of ignorance. And fifth is the incense of perfect knowledge, which means being always aware and nowhere obstructed. These 5 are the most precious kinds of incense and far superior to anything the world has to offer. When the Buddha was in the world, he told his disciples to light such precious incense with the fire of awareness as an offering to the Buddhas of the 10 directions. But people today don't understand the Tathagata's real meaning. They use an ordinary flame to light material incense of sandalwood or frankincense and pray for some future blessing that never comes. Previously, moving on from Bodhidharma, previously, when weeding out that which is wrong, it was all called wrong. Now, in showing what is right, with what reason in each case is it called right? Answer: it is in each case called right because it is neither bondage nor liberation, because in every case it is higher seeking. We also say they are all right because of progressive entry into truth. Also, the truth being difficult to know, using temporary expedients to reveal truth is called right in each case. These three are called right in reference to the aim of the world. Also, temporary expedients do not contain the true. It is the true that contains temporary expedients. In order to make containing and revealing easy to see, we say they are all right. This case is said to be right in reference to the aim of helping people. Also, one aspiration for enlightenment is all aspirations for enlightenment. But without explanation, all are not known. So we say they are all right. In this case, we explain right in terms of the aim of specific cure. Speaking ultimately, the first three are in terms of temporary expedients, the last one in terms of the true. It is as if a physician had a secret prescription that included all prescriptions, a health-giving medicine whose effects included those of all medicines. It is like when you eat grain cooked in milk, you do not need anything more. All is included, like in a wish-fulfilling jewel. The sense of expedient and true, revealing what is right, should be known. Also, one right is in the sense of the cause and conditions of one great matter. How is it one? In terms of one truth not being false, one path being pure, all unimpeded people leaving the cycle of birth and death on one path. How is it great? Its nature is vast and inclusive. It is ridden by great people of great knowledge and great resolution, and the great lion roar greatly benefits the ordinary and the sage. Therefore it is called great. The matter is the procedure of the Buddhas of past, present, and future. By this they attain enlightenment. By this they liberate sentient beings. As for cause and conditions, sentient beings sense Buddha by this cause. Buddha produces response by these conditions. Also, in reference to right, it cannot be called three, it cannot be called one, it cannot be called neither three nor one, yet three and one. Therefore it is called the inconceivable right. Again, in reference to right, it is not a fabricated thing, not made by Buddha, by celestial beings, by humans, or by titans. The eternal sphere is signless. The eternal knowledge is objectless. With objectless knowledge perceiving the signless sphere characterizing objectless knowledge, knowledge and sphere merge into one, yet are called sphere and knowledge. Therefore it is called uncreate. Also, in reference to right, the scripture of the Questions of Manjushri says that breaking through everything is called arousing the aspiration for enlightenment. This breaking through everything, you can think of it in the very simple way of getting out of bed and going for a walk. But breaking out of going for a walk and getting out of bed. Breaking out of the whole shebang, so that it cannot be called, I can't do it, it's too technical. But anyway, it means you break out. You break out, breaking out. So it really, you're happy to do that, right? And We can call it like arousing that aspiration for enlightenment because we are depressed, we are tired, we are in bed, etc., etc., and yet we're not just arising the aspiration to be depressed and get out of bed and go for a walk, but to be beyond that. And so that is like the real getting out of bed, going for a walk, etc. You get it? So also in reference to right, the scripture of the questions of Manjushri says that breaking through everything is called arousing the aspiration for enlightenment. Always following the characteristics of enlightenment, one arouses the aspiration for enlightenment. Right? So following the characteristics of enlightenment, like mindfulness and detachment, like freedom, like cessation, right? The characteristics of falling away, of impermanence, of the unsatisfactoriness of phenomena, characteristics of interbeing, no self, right? So breaking through everything is called arousing the aspiration for enlightenment. So don't use any desire to break out or the effort. That the breaking through everything, the action of breaking through everything, because you are depressed, you are in bed, you don't want to get out of bed, you're depressed for this reason and that reason and this and that and all this stuff, right? So the only option is breaking through everything, or that is the practice, that is the real mindfulness and detachment. You see? That is going beyond your limits, going beyond yourself, going beyond the everything of that experience that you're identifying with and spiraling in. So that is the breaking through everything. And of course, it's not about being depressed and getting out of bed and going for a walk, but that is kind of how your practice can be informed by enlightenment rather than perpetuating the story of yourself. You know, I feel like some people live their lives, and I live my lives like that someday, where I'm writing a story of my life as I'm going through it, and it's a story that I don't like, and it's a story that I'd rather toss in the bin, but I'm just lost in that samsara, lost in that world of confusion and chasing and avoiding. So just get up and go out, break out. Breaking through everything is called arousing the aspiration for enlightenment. Always following the characteristics of enlightenment, one arouses the aspiration for enlightenment. So following the characteristics of enlightenment, when you are depressed, when you are anxious, when you are laying in bed, scrolling through TikTok or whatever it might be that you find yourself to be trapped in, right? Following and noticing those aspects or those characteristics of enlightenment, of being unbounded. And this is why that advice or that guidance for being concerned with the Dhamma or living at a meditation center or listening to Dhamma talks, because it's informing us, it's getting us concerned with those characteristics of enlightenment that are all around us as we happen to be human beings, so we can notice them. We can see those characteristics of enlightenment. We can see the characteristics of awareness, or the apparent characteristics of awareness, rather than the things in awareness. Always following the characteristics of enlightenment, one arouses the aspiration for enlightenment, and that is the access to the practice of breaking through and breaking out of samsara, or breaking through everything, all the things. Also, it is arousing without arousing, following without following. So it's not self-referential. It's not based in secondary thought. It's not based on me telling this or you doing that. It's beyond that. And that's like the switch, right? The time switch, the time dissolution switch, the identity dissolution switch, the right, wrong, good, bad, like, dislike dissolution switch. So that switch is arousing without arousing, following without following, experiencing without experiencing, seeing without seeing, hearing without hearing. So that's like the realization element of the practice that you find in the Bahia Sutta that I'm always talking about, right? The sutta of the Buddha taught to practice seeing without conceiving about what is seen. The Buddha taught to practice hearing without conceiving about what is heard. And so that leads to the wisdom element, or the realization or the fruit of that practice, which is to see without seeing, to hear without hearing, to think without thinking, to scream without screaming, etc. This book I'm reading from here, this is an exceedingly technical book that I kind of come back to from time to time to see, because as you deepen in your practice, you'll be able to understand it intuitively more. But it's a book called Stopping and Seeing, a comprehensive course in Buddhist meditation by Chi E that was translated by Thomas Cleary. And it's very, very technical, but very wisdom informed. So I've just felt a connection to it. Also, going beyond all breakthroughs, going beyond all following, yet simultaneously being aware of both breakthrough and following is called arousing the aspiration for enlightenment. These three kinds are not one, not different, conforming to noumenon, conforming to phenomena, and according to neither noumenon nor phenomena, therefore this is called right. So basically, nothing can apply to it, nothing can interfere with it. It's unstoppable. It's unstoppable in a way that's unstoppable beyond itself. So these three kinds are not one, not different, conforming to noumenon, conforming to phenomena, and according to neither noumenon nor phenomena, therefore this is called right. In this sense, the teachings such as uncreate, inconceivable, the causes and conditions of the one great matter, and so on, all speak of breaking through, all speak of following, all speak of neither breakthrough nor following, simultaneously illuminating breakthrough and following. Yeah, this is so technical and deep. You kind of even have to make notes and have ChatGPT with you to work through it, because back in the Chinese times of Buddhism flourishing, and also in modern times to some degree in Thailand and Myanmar, it's a lot easier to become academically involved with Buddhism than it is to become spiritually or insight involved with Buddhism. And young monks and people who ordain, they have to do something. They can't just sit around all day meditating or doing whatever they want. And there used to not be all these phones around, so there would be a lot of monks who are deeply in this academic sphere, and then this tradition and this system of academia built up, where there's all these terms and lists and fixtures in the scope of Buddhist academia that the philosophers and they're constantly referencing and pointing to all these different lists instead of explaining what's in the lists. And it just goes on and on and on and on. Amazing Grace. Time to sing Amazing Grace, everybody. Judy Collins. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Was grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toil and snares, we have already come. 'Twas grace that brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home. When we've been dead 10,000 years, brightening as the sun, we've no less days to sing forgive than when we first begun. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Amazing
Shri Mahakala Yajaba Dale Om Za. Om 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 Shri Mahakala Yajaba Dale Om Za. Shri Mahakala Yajaba Dale Om Za. Om 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 Shri Mahakala Yajaba Om Za. Om Shri Mahakala Yajaba Dale 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 Om Za. Om Shri Mahakala Om Za. Om Shri Mahakala Yajaba Dale 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 Om
It's yeah, this is a mantra for like a wrathful deity in Tibetan Buddhism. So you have to be careful with that stuff. Wrathful compassion is no joke. I would say that I've definitely experienced my fair share of wrathful compassion, and that's one of the reasons that I can be so expressive, I can be so intense in my sadhana, in my practice, because I know about the power of compassion, so I can release and relax the identity factor, the ego factor, which can be difficult to do. I'm here in my meditation box. There's a monastery nearby my teacher's monastery, and they have these meditation boxes. I can't do live streaming at my teacher's monastery because there's no connection there. No stable connection. For you. For me, I can connect there, but not through live streaming. So I wanted to pull up some Mazu. Oh, this is also a really nice one. This Korean master. Bodhidharma said, the mode of contemplation embraces all actions. Clear, right? The mode of contemplation embraces all actions. An old master also said, if mind is empty, without hindrance, it is true charity. If mind is pure, without defilement, it is keeping the precepts. If mind is peaceful, without dispute, it is tolerance, or we might know that as endurance, to endure. If there is no discrimination in the mind of sublime serenity, it is energetic exertion. If it is wide open beyond serenity and clamor, it is meditation. And true wisdom is none other than supreme illumination beyond wisdom and ignorance. He goes on to say, never claim anything to be absolutely right, nor anything to be absolutely wrong. Rejecting the wrong and approving the right, and accepting this and refusing that, are none other than bounding oneself with iron chains. The awakened one never claims anything to be right, nor anything to be wrong. Bodhidharma said, benevolence, justice, courtesy, wisdom, and fidelity are called the realms of confinement. So are the principles of Hinayana and Mahayana, or Theravada and Mahayana. So are birth, death, and nirvana. Hence, when one does not arouse the mind, like having the mind of an ordinary being, when one does not arouse the mind of a seeker on the path, when one does not arouse the mind of a bodhisattva, when one does not arouse the mind of a Buddha, one will be free from confinement. So, not arousing the mind of being someone. Not arousing the mind of being someone. He also said, even when one is in hell for one's sins, one would attain enlightenment if one could only realize one's own Dharma queen. He said again, enlightenment can be attained in an instant. Why then trouble oneself for an entire life? The sixth patriarch Hui Nang said, if forethought is deluded, one is a sentient being. If afterthought is awakened, one is a Buddha. An old master said, a dragon may change its bones, but it cannot change its scales. And ordinary beings may become Buddhas, but they cannot change their faces. As these Dharma speeches are so illuminating and priceless, concentration of the mind and the sublime meanings of these words abide in one's mind forevermore. This is not Mazu. This is a Korean master who is very integral in reestablishing Buddhism in South Korea. I think this is Mazu. The basis of awareness. Expand enlightenment, and the mind is always calm. Go along with things, and consciousness runs at a gallop. I only wish to be rich in enlightenment, though personally poor. Generous with virtue, though emotionally aloof. Here, I am thus every day, thus all the time. But tell me, what is thus? Try to express it outside of discriminatory consciousness, intellectual assessments, and verbal formulations. This reality is not susceptible to your intellectual understanding. Now those who think, attend, and reflect all have some intellectual understanding. But then when they turn back to examine their own eyes and think of the mind that thinks, at this point, why do people unknowingly say, it has never been blue, yellow, red, or white, it has no appearance, no form? I tell you, this is what I call talk. It is not your original mind. How can you think of your original mind? How can you see your own eye? When you are looking inward, furthermore, there is no seeing subject. Some people swallow this in one gulp, so their eye of insight opens wide and they immediately arrive at their homeland. How can people nowadays reach the point where there is no seeing and no hearing? Everything is always there. You see people, houses, and all sorts of forms, like boiling water bubbling. When you were infants, you also heard sounds and saw forms, but you didn't know how to discriminate. Once you came to the age of reason, then you listened to discriminatory thinking, and from that time on have suffered a split between the primal and the temporal. At this point, it is inevitably hard for people to restore natural order, even if they want to. Those who attain enlightenment do not see walking when they walk, and do not see sitting when they sit. That is why the Buddha said, the eyes seeing forms is equivalent to blindness. The ears hearing sounds is equivalent to deafness. How can we say we are as if blind and deaf? When we hear sound, there is no sound to be heard. When we see form, there is no form to be seen. What we see and hear is all equivalent to an echo. It is like seeing all sorts of things in a dream. Is there all that when you wake up? If you say yes, yet there's only the blanket and the pillow on the bed. If you say no, yet all those things are clearly registered in your mind, and you can tell what they were. The same is true of what you see and hear now in broad daylight. So it is said, what can be seen by the eye or heard by the ear can be studied in the scriptures and treatises. But what about the basis of awareness itself? How do you study that? Where is Shakyamuni, the Buddha? What? What? Where is Bodhidharma, founder of Zen? Just there. How do you explain the logic of just being there? It's unavoidably hard to clarify. If you can clarify this, you will finally know that true reality is always there. Many Zen specialists say the mention itself is it. Then what about when you're dying or too sick to speak? It is necessary to penetrate this experientially before you'll get it. Have you not read how a seeker asked Deshan, "Where have the ancient sages gone?" Deshan said, "What? What?" Does that mean that what itself is the sages? You people either interpret literally or else fall into conventional echoes of what is said. If you don't fall into echo-like expressions, then you fall into wordlessness and speechlessness. This reality you actually cannot figure out by conceptual interpretations. If you keep any of that on your mind, it turns into an inclination, alienating you from yourself. Even if you try to attain harmony by means of mystic devices and wondrous doctrines, you will certainly be unable to do so. If you do not think at all, though, that won't work either. You must personally experience it before you will attain clear vision with no doubt. No Mud, No Lotus, The Art of Transforming Suffering by Thich Nhat Hanh. Okay. Any questions or any sharing about your experience today or this evening for those who've been following along and participating? Any questions or sharing experience? Good, more. Great. Well, so practicing meditation really can be in any position. The body can be relaxed and full of awareness in any position. Awareness of the body and being with the way that the body is, full of awareness. To realize awareness is liberation, so allowing the body to be full of awareness, allowing the body to be full of liberation. That's not about right or wrong, or good or bad, or pleasurable or painful or neutral. Not about anything, just full of awareness. of that which notices or that which thinks. Allow the body of awareness to go into the origin place of thinking. Allow the body of awareness to be absorbed into the place from which thoughts arise. Allow all of that awareness to enter into the place from which thoughts arise. Whatever it is, just see it, just feel it, without labeling it as good or bad, just let it happen. Go deep into the mind without picking or choosing. Go deep into the awareness. Allow that awareness to be everywhere, inside and out, in all directions, awareness. Don't pick and choose, just let it happen. Let everything happen. Let awareness itself take care of all things, any things. And relax that focal point or that focusing point of awareness. Let the awareness have no point. Relax from points. Don't react, don't respond, don't get involved. Just aware. Just awareness. So, good night. Good luck, dear friends. Take care on your journey. See you again sometime soon.